this house is called what we call a balloon frame. A balloon frame means the floors and the walls and the support system are built separately. All right. See how the wall stud, the 2x4 wall stud, comes down and sits on top of the beam?
Right.
They don't. That's the old way of building houses. You know, the new way is you build your beam supports on top of your block, your floor joists lay in, then your plywood lay on top of your floor joists, then your wall comes down and sits on your plywood.
Okay.
Which is your 2x4 wall stud. The old way of doing it back in the old days was called balloon frame, which means you had a beam sitting on a block. The wall stud comes down and sits on top of your beam. Okay. Then they build the walls, and then they build the floors inside the walls. Okay. So it's all separate from each other.
Okay.
Which makes it even more complicated because a balloon frame, if everything ain't solid and attached together right, the walls will separate from the floor. When you start to lift or push, they'll separate. Okay. So you have to make sure all these beams are good. You have to open up some of the siding to make sure all these 2x4 wall studs are not ate up by termites, okay?
Okay.
Otherwise, everything when you try to lift it will just crush into each other and not pick the house up because it ain't strong enough to handle the weight of the structure.
Okay.
So what you're seeing here is where termites have ate up the majority of the beamwork around here. That's why the inside of the house has so many humps in it. When the beamwork breaks, it causes the concrete blocks to go through the beam and hit the floor.
Okay.
As it hits the floor, then the floor is now, the block in the floor is now what holds the house up.
Okay.
So therefore you get the big humps wherever the blocks are.
Okay.
Because the beams have broke and can't distribute the weight evenly across the top of them.
Okay.
What you're going to have to do here, and I have no clue what your idea is with this house, but if you want to raise this house and get it off the ground, you're going to have to open up some of the floors inside, which means cutting the decking out, okay?
Okay.
Get to the expose the actual support system, which is your floor joists and your beamwork.
Okay.
Replace the beamwork that's bad, replace the floor joists that are bad, then your house is strong enough to get it off the ground. Then you can lift the house off the ground and redeck the plywood that was taken up to repair the floor.
Okay.
But right now, in the shape that it's in, you can't just come in here and jack it off the ground. It just ain't gonna work that way.
Okay.
And if anybody comes in here and tells you different and they try it, they're gonna take your money and they're gonna run. As far, I don't know how you heard about us. As far as Continental Foundation is concerned, we're a family-owned business and we specialize in wood structure homes. Okay. A lot of companies you call nowadays don't even work on these houses anymore.
Okay.
We are an A+ rated company with the Better Business Bureau, and my grandfather did foundation repairs, so I've been around this pretty much all my life.
Yes,
okay. I have a lot of references here in Santa Fe. I don't know if you're familiar with Sunrise Realty, Robert Cheek and them. They have an office right down here off of Highway 6. Do a lot of work for them over the years, and so you know, as in references for you to know and understand that I understand what I'm talking about,
right,
is easy for me to show. But well, I guess what I'm trying to tell you in long story short is you've got a very complicated job to do here.
Okay.
Okay. This is not easy by no means in the shape this house is in.
Okay.
Cost-effective wise, I don't know what your idea of your budget you think you're going to spend on this foundation, but if you open this foundation up and it is rotted completely, which means you have to put new floor joists, new beamwork, and new decking in this house, it could get expensive.
Right.
Okay. You could wind up spending $15,000, $18,000 putting a new floor under this house easy. Okay. So you have to be very careful. Right now, I can't tell you what is salvageable and what is not because I can't see none of it. Okay. The only place that I can see is on the other side where there's actually a little opening.
Right.
Now, looking through that opening, I can see some of the floor joists right there. Some of the floor joists look to be good right there. Okay. But I can tell you that the beams are all going to pretty much look like this. Okay. As far as the floor joists, they're higher off the ground.
Okay.
Therefore, they can handle the exposure to the ground a little better because they're a little higher.
All right.
But then you got to worry about the termites. You go around this house all the way around, there's evidence of termites and wood ants. See, this here is not termite damage. This here is wood ants, where they got the little holes.
Okay.
And this is also dry rot. What you see here happens to these beams. What you see happening to that beam right there, is this right here. It's called dry rot.
Okay.
Dry rot is where the moisture gets baked out of the wood and causes it to be brittle.
Right.
So I can go to these big 4x6 beams underneath the house, and I can grab one of them and I can rip a section off, not like this, but just a whole chunk of the whole beam out.
Right. Do you think and it's all the way through? It'll just...
Yeah. The beam work, I guarantee you, I would bet $100 right now that when we open the floor, the majority of the beam work's going to look like that.
Okay.
Because it's closed off. And
but if you look over here, just to show you, I mean, I know, I'm just, you know.
I'm not saying every piece of wood under this house is going to be that way.
Right, right.
But the majority of it is going to be. Like this area here, I've already looked at. You might find some good pieces in here that's a little different than the rest of this house, but you can also tell the siding's different. You can see where this siding has been replaced some years ago.
Okay.
From looks like probably about this lap down.
Okay.
Here.
Uh-huh.
So which means somebody worked on this. This is the reason why this is
right,
good.
because you can see on this side that the siding is different, lower than it is up here,
now
right?
You take this siding and you see how it's ate up by termites like the rest of it.
But that seal looks good, and we
yeah, what I'm trying to say is that somebody's worked on this house over the years.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and they've replaced some. Some of these beams have been worked on over the years of this house, and some of the siding has been replaced, which is an indication that something rotted out, and they had to repair something. But if you notice, the back half of this house is staying very high, which means somebody probably worked on it and jacked this up at one time. You turn here, and you see how it drops down the middle?
Right.
That's because all the beams are broke going this way and that way.
Okay.
All the big humps in the back are broke that way. Okay, because on this particular house, your beam support is going to run front to back. Your roof pitch is A-frame running front to back, which means your load-bearing support beam is going to run from front to back.
Okay.
The reason why the middle of the house breaks off is because all the middle of the beams are broken across the middle of the house. Somebody got back here some years ago and worked on this.
Okay.
And that's why this is all staying high and it all fell that direction. Because this probably was the worst end of it at one point in time in the history of the house, and somebody fixed it.
Okay.
But they left all this alone.
Okay.
And that's what you're seeing. Because you can go along and you can see where siding is a little different.
Yeah.
And that means over the life of the house somebody worked on something.
Well, what?
But you can see here, as you get back to here, where the beams start to get ate up and broke up, and it does it all the way through. Well, now we can't see none of this, but I guarantee as soon as you clear cut all this, it's going to be the exact same thing.
Okay.
Which means we have to pull the siding off up to at least here, just to see if the wall studs are ate up with termites, and make sure that we can have a good, because you got to get back to good wood to scab in the new studs, the pieces of the studs. Okay. Which is called scabbing the wall studs. To get to the beam work, we have to pull siding off so we can expose the beam so we can take it out, put it in. The reason why some of the floor has to come out is because it's sitting on the ground. You're going to pay a lot more money for us to trench under